All right, in this video, we're going to work with something called a null object. A null object is something that is not rendered. When you export your video out, it will not be visible. But it's great to parent groups of items and groups of assets together to move them together. So you can actually scale, move, rotate things together, but also keep things individual. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So let's jump in and take a look. Okay, so I've got these three cogs here, and I want to move them up. And I want to move them up in the kind of center, and I'm going to scale them together. So if I took these two layers, in fact, these top two layers, and just took this little pick whip tool, like I mentioned in the last video, and drag it to cog 1. Okay, now if I move it, well, that's great. It's all parented, right? It moves together. It's one group. But if I said, hey, I want to rotate this, see how they all rotate? And I don't want that. That is not what I want at all. Control Z to undo. So that's not going to work. I'm going to reset my parenting link by clicking on my layers and setting them to none. So in order to achieve this, we need to use something called a null layer. So I'm going to go up to Layer, create New Null Object. And here you are. It's got this little red box. Okay? Now with that, I'm going to select my layers below it, grab that pick whip tool, drag it up to the null object. There we go. So now if I select my null object and move it, all three of them move together. Okay, in fact, I'm going to transform this null, maybe scale it. You can see they all scale together as well based on that null object. And that's very important because we're going to need that in just a little bit. Okay. Why is this important? Well, they're all parented together, right? But they're parented to the null object, which means all of our other attributes on the three cogs or the three gears here are still isolated, meaning I can rotate this one without having to deal with the other two moving around with it and not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So let's create our first keyframe animation. All right, so I just want to see the rotation on these three. So I'm going to hit R on my keyboard, and I can see rotation for all three of these. And I'm going to rotate. Let's start with this one at the bottom. I'm going to click the keyframe, the stopwatch next to rotation, and it creates this little diamond. If you can see this here, creates a little diamond. That's our keyframe. And then let's move out to say 10 seconds. Okay. And let's rotate that. We'll say 360. One full rotation. So I play this. And that's going to rotate nicely. Okay. Well, let's take this one. I'm going to click on the stopwatch. And this time I'm going to rotate it minus 360. And you can see when I type in 360, which is a full circle, it actually says -1 instead of the degrees of 360, because that's one full rotation. Now, I made a mistake. Because I didn't move in time, it didn't create a second keyframe. It just did everything right there. So let's reset this by clicking 0 there, and let's come out into time. Type in 360, or actually change that to -1, right? Because we want it to go the opposite way. And now if I play this back, okay, that's looking pretty good, Let's do the third one to match. So let's take this cog, click rotation, come out to 10 seconds. I'm holding the shift key down and it's snapping right to my other keyframe, so I know that everything is going to be aligned. And instead of typing 360, let's just type 1 over here, so one full rotation. And let's take a look. Hey, that's pretty good. I actually do like that. And now we've got our first animation going. So there we go. We've animated the rotation on three separate layers. We've actually parented them to a null object so that we can move the whole group around while keeping those rotations isolated. And in the next video, we're going to animate the scale and probably the opacity to bring them in one at a time to really start to bring this animation to life. I'll see you there.